I wanted to start out talking about the state of the industrial base. We've done some reporting in recent weeks. Even though the worst of COVID seems to be behind us, the economic fallout's not. And Russia's invasion of Ukraine is causing some supply chain kinks. The defense industry's been struggling with labor shortages, supply chain issues, inflation. And they say that that's squeezing profits, but also making programs late, putting pressure on prices in the department. So I wanted to get your, as somebody who is in touch with industry regularly, do you think of these problems as distinct from one another? Are they intertwined? How severe would you say things are?
Yeah, so obviously we're starting on a high note here. No, I'm just kidding. I would just say, first of all, what you see in your everyday life in terms of, quote, supply chain and availability applies, of course, in the defense world, too. So it's no different. A couple things are going on. One is that, remember this, the workforce and industry, both not just the primes, but all the suppliers, worked through the pandemic. I mean, there's so many heroes in this country that worked through the pandemic, figured out how to do classified work, figured out how to do hands-on work, welding, et cetera, all through the pandemic. We didn't skip a beat, which is amazing, because I don't know how many of you thought that this would be the case if you go back to March of 2020, number one. Number two is, just like everybody else, they're infected by the, whatever you call it, the great resignation, the quiet quitting, whatever terminology you want to use. I would say that, and I think this is probably true for non-defense, if you take the voluntary attrition of a company or a laboratory pre-pandemic and you compare it to today, it's typically double. So if you're at 7% voluntary attrition in 2019, you're probably at 14% right now. And what's the cause of it? Well, there's lots of causes. It's what we all read about every day. It's what we talk about. It's people deciding to make different choices on work-life balance. It's the economy. The economy is very, very hot, so there's a lot of good jobs. So just like everybody else, everybody's dealing with this, not just the defense industry. We're dealing with it. And related but distinct is inflation. If you're getting a 5% or 6% salary increase, which is a good salary increase 3 years ago in our world, and your inflation is 11%, and you come home and you tell your spouse, congratulations, I lost 5% buying power. It's not good. So all of those are relating together. Now, people aren't standing around and doing nothing about it. We are working on the workforce. In fact, it's interesting, NNSA, National Nuclear Security Administration, they actually gave a mid-year increase to all their employees. This is so there's a lot of those things going on, a lot of bonuses going on, but we need to do more to do that. So it affects all of us. But I think the bigger picture to think about is everything was kept going and on track through the pandemic. And if you look at what we're doing right now for Ukraine, it's incredible, it's remarkable, and how these factories are still producing everything through where we've been.
So there has been some speculation about when inventory shortages would start to affect aid packages, and there was some analysis recently that maybe this point had arrived. For instance, the one of the most recent packages switched to 155 millimeter howitzers, from 155 to 105, and went went to tow missiles because the Javelin inventory had fallen. Is that on target, or I wanted to get you to clarify?
It's more nuanced than that. It's sure that we look at the inventory, and I think the chairman and the secretary very keen, looking at inventory and all that. But what's driving it more than inventory? I mean, yes, we're mindful of the inventory, but it's number one is production rates. But really, number two is, what do the Ukrainians need and what can they use? And the second piece of it is, let's take 155s as an example. Every time you ask the question, almost every time you initially ask the question of, what do we have of that munition? You get an answer. But then you look at it more, and you have teams go out, fly around the world, look in different storage places, and you find out the U.S. Army never throws anything away. It's like my aunt from the Depression.
Where would you put it?
Well, it's worse than that, or it's better than that, depending on your point of view. Without getting into specifics, we are discovering, discovering is the wrong word, but we are learning more about available rounds of munitions that can be used in the conflict than you initially thought. And part of it is because we have a very high standard of what munitions that we consider in our stockpile. It's not that these other munitions aren't reliable, but they may be more for training, or they may be slightly older. The other piece we found on 155s, the U.S. isn't the only place that produces 155s. They're produced around the world. We were able to buy from sources around the world and get on contract within a week, and we just did this 2 weeks ago, 250,000 rounds of 155s. 250,000 rounds. Okay, we just bought them. And it was a quiet little announcement. So all these, the articles about, oh, they're running out with 155s. We just bought 250,000. So we are being very creative. We are going around. Having said all that, we have to look at the bigger picture. We have to look at where the conflict is going. We have to look at the expenditure rates. We have to look at what's smart for us. So we have the near-term focus, which is going around scouring and figuring all these interesting ideas. But then we have the longer-term focus. I will also say there's incredible innovation going on. You may have heard about the harpoons or seen it in the news. Well, the story there is that a country, which I won't mention who it was, had some harpoons that were on a ship. They were naval-based harpoons. They said we could maybe do something with it, so we worked with that country and with the contractor. We got them off the ship, put them on some flatbed trucks, put the harpoons modules on the flatbed truck and a different flatbed truck for the power source, connected a cable between it, figured out it was exportable, brought the Ukrainians to train on it over Memorial Day weekend. In our country, it would be Memorial Day weekend. And the next week, 2 Russian ships were sunk with those harpoons. That happened in about 3 weeks. So there's incredible innovation going on right now, and we just don't talk about it enough.